Experiencing an instance of high strangeness can cause an internal war within our minds. Our minds are naturally curious and fascinated and want to believe what they just experienced. Our minds are also rational thinking and try to explain the events or dismiss them entirely. In the very process of drawing our conclusions about what we just experienced, the nature of our pattern-seeking minds begins to go to work categorizing things. How do we categorize this particular occurrence in our mental library? In some instances, the going-ons are so strange and unexplainable that we find our minds even more unsettled than usual at their complete inability to do so. Hello and welcome, my freshwater friends, to episode 5 of the About the Water podcast, an exploration of high strangeness on and around the Great Lakes. Today we take a late-night walk through the deserted residential streets of Grand Bend, Ontario, on the southeastern shores of Lake Huron. Here, we'll experience a phenomenon not easily categorized, a strange encounter that leaves us unsettled, as it quite literally echoed about the water. Episode 5, The Grand Bend Anomaly. Mia's alarm clock screamed with a vengeance. She buried her head under her pillow to cover her ears, to little effect. The noise resonated through her head like a high-pitched electronic screaming. Rolling over to smack the snooze button, she noticed the time, 4:07 a.m., nearly 3.5 hours before the alarm would normally be set to go off. As Mia sat upright in bed, the fact then came to her that today was also a Saturday, a weekend, and no alarm was set. A quick glance at the clock confirmed that the alarm was in fact completely off. With a yawn, Mia dismissed the alarm as part of a dream and tried to go back to sleep. She was, however, awake. Very awake. Her ears were ringing, and she felt dizzy. Deciding on a glass of water, Mia got up and noticed another unusual sound, a sort of metallic jingling emanating from the kitchen. Following the source of the noise, she found her only roommate, Chloe, in a state of absolute distress. The hair on Chloe's back was standing straight up, her body was trembling, and she was staring out the back door with her teeth bared. Mia had never once seen her beloved 3-year-old terrier behave this way. But right now, Chloe was shaking so much that her metal dog tags were banging into one another and into the frame of the sliding door. Mia flicked on the porch light, trying to get a glimpse of whatever might be making her dog so upset. The second the light hit the backyard, Mia jumped back, startled. With a sigh, and then eventually a laugh, Mia patted Chloe's head and explained it was just a deer. Deer in backyards weren't that unusual in Grand Bend, a small Ontario town with Lake Huron on one side and expansive farmland on all others. After pouring herself a glass of water, Mia reached over again to turn off the porch light, and as she did, she froze. Staring back from the far corner of the yard, the deer stood on its hind legs, completely upright. It stared at Mia intensely for a long moment, as if studying her, eventually returning to all fours and running off along the side of the house. Now both Chloe and Mia were breathing heavily. Chloe darted into the living room and grabbed the leash off the small table near the front door. Yeah, good idea, Mia thought. Maybe we could both use some fresh air. Outside, the spring air smelled thick and floral. A breeze was rolling in off Lake Huron. Mia took in a deep breath, enjoying the serenity of the early morning. In a few hours, the town would be buzzing with tourists. But for now, it was all hers. Mia truly did love it here. The pair walked parallel to the beach, a few blocks inland. Mia found herself deep in thought as to how she was going to spend her well-deserved weekend. Her thoughts were suddenly interrupted when Chloe's leash went taut. Mia stopped abruptly, using all of her body weight to keep her tugging dog from running off. Looking up, Mia saw the deer again. With a slightly unnerved groan, she reined in the leash, nervously again assuring her dog that it was just a deer. It was at that point that Mia took a good, long look and shuddered. Unmoving, about a block away, the creature was as tall as a street sign. It stood on its rear legs, still and silent, and right in the middle of the road. Mia remained calm, gently catching Chloe's attention and urging her on as the two continued towards Main Street. Though the beach shops and restaurants would all be closed, Mia found comfort in the thought of moving towards the streetlights and hopefully a more trafficked area. Chloe again caught Mia off guard, letting out a loud series of barks. Looking back over her shoulder, Mia could now see that the animal was charging directly towards them. It moved unnaturally quickly, still on its hind legs and in a sort of jerky jogging motion. Frozen in fear, Mia watched as the animal then completely dematerialized, vanishing into thin air. Breathing hard and looking around without moving, Mia took a moment to regain her composure. And with her own tug of the leash, she let Chloe know that it was time to return home. Right now. But as the two turned around, they both jumped backwards in surprise. The creature was back, directly in front of them, and only a couple of yards away. Chloe barked. Mia screamed. And in what seemed to be a reply, the creature opened its mouth and emitted an eerily familiar sound. A sort of electronic screaming noise, one that resonated through Mia's head. It was unmistakable, the same noise that woke her up. Mia dropped to the ground, holding her ears and continuing to scream in absolute terror. Chloe whimpered beside her, trying desperately to crawl under Mia for protection. Then, in an instant, the noise stopped, and the world went silent. Looking up, hands still over her ears, Mia watched as the creature took several slow steps backwards. She noticed a faint blue glow that began to envelop the creature as it continued to back slowly away. Mia cautiously stood, confused and mesmerized. She and Chloe watched as the faint blue glow became a radiant blue light, bright enough to illuminate all the nearby homes. The creature snorted and dropped to all fours, and in a sudden, brilliant flash of light, the creature disappeared, leaving behind a thunderous cracking noise, one so loud that it physically knocked both Mia and Chloe backwards. Darkness returned, and Mia noticed a blue object several thousand feet in the sky, moving quickly away from the area and off towards Lake Huron. Car alarms were blaring around her, and bedroom and porch lights were being turned on. For several moments she sat on the sidewalk, stunned, with Chloe curled up beside her. Mia closed her eyes, trying to calm herself, and as soon as she opened them again, she felt panic once again surging through her. A blue light was now approaching from behind, and it was bright. It wasn't until she heard the sound of car tires approaching that Mia had the courage to look back. It was a police cruiser, pulling up right beside her. Before the city police officer could fully exit the vehicle, Mia ran up and clung to him, sobbing and desperately trying to catch her breath. The officer was quickly able to assess that she was physically unharmed and asked her what had happened. gesturing towards the area and making motions with her hand upward towards the sky. Mia asked the officer if he had been witness to the bizarre occurrence, to which he said no. He did, however, explain that he and a fellow officer were discussing the upcoming day when they heard a loud, booming noise and decided to investigate. He asked Mia what she had seen, and after a brief moment of silence, she replied, "Just a deer?" Of all the strange occurrences we have visited thus far, this one has left me the most perplexed. When I was initially structuring this podcast, I was hoping to provide you with a story type for each episode. For example, Episode 5, the Grand Bend Anomaly, a ghost story, or a UFO encounter, etc. But it's because of this very story that I don't make a habit of doing that. I wouldn't even know what to call it. When Mia first contacted me with the story, she referred to it as, and I quote, strange wildlife encounter. She even went so far as to preface its telling with, "I doubt you'll be able to use this. However," surprisingly, Mia explained that since these events unfolded, she remains convinced that there is nothing supernatural about them. In fact, she remains skeptical about the paranormal in general. In trying to understand her perception, I did do some research, and indeed, deer and similar animals can in fact maneuver somewhat on their hind legs, for example when reaching for food or challenging other animals. However, as Mia admits, things like jogging upright, dematerializing, rematerializing, and ascending skyward with a blue glow and a thundering cracking noise are behaviors that are not so commonly reported in Canadian wildlife. Mia and I both also searched for anything we could find in the Grand Bend public police records, but there's nothing recorded. In trying to figure out why, Mia did remind me that the officer did say he had initiated the investigation on his own and was not formally dispatched. Also, since no crimes or injuries were reported, there's likely nothing to be logged. So, what does this all mean? I guess it means that Mia and Chloe and you and me are all left to the mercy of our ongoing debate between our curious minds and our rational thinking minds. Good luck on that. And with that, thank you sincerely for listening. As you continue to explore these stories and these waters, here's hoping that your journey is as grand, beautiful, and enduring as our Great Lakes. I'll see you about the water.